Rebecca DeHarling here today with me to talk about her book, The Lines Between Us. Rebecca, can you tell me a little bit of what your novel's about?
Yes, it's a dual timeline novel set in 1661 Madrid, and a woman's niece disappears from Madrid, and the aunt, Anna, um, searches for her, decides maybe she's gone to Seville with her father, but she doesn't think so, but she feels like she has to do something. So she goes to Seville. Before she leaves, she's gone to the house of her brother. Also, she doesn't know where her brother is either. She's gone to their house and found a diary that Juliana, the niece, left. And as she travels to Seville, and as she's in Seville, she reads the diary, and starts to understand what was on Juliana's mind. And at the end of the diary, she finds out that something terrible happened, and that's why Juliana fled. And at that point, she decides to give up the search because she's afraid that she'll put Juliana in more danger. We then go to 1992, Missouri, St. Louis, to Rachel, our contemporary character, and her mother has recently passed away. And on her deathbed, she said, "I have failed. I am like Anna. I failed Juliana." And Rachel, the modern character, has no idea who she's talking about. But as she's going through her mother's home, she finds some papers that are hidden, and recognizes immediately that this old looking journal has the names Juliana and Anna. So she slowly begins to read that and letters that are with it. And it's all, for her, the conflict is this real? Is this authentic? What am I looking at? But also, why did my mother never tell me this? And am I somehow connected to these papers? And would this explain why my mother was always sort of reticent about everything?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's basically it.
So what was the inspiration for the story?
The inspiration for the story, it just struck me one day. I studied Spanish language and literature in undergrad and grad school. And in 17th century Spain, which they call their golden age for art, literature, there were a group of plays that we call honor plays, in which the theme of honor is paramount. And honor is often defined for the man by the women in his life. So if the woman does something dishonorable, or even against her will, she is violated, then she becomes the symbol of his dishonor. And he, in some cases, he's supposed to kill her because she's a symbol of his dishonor. So I wanted to know, and in one of the plays, which I quote in the book, the daughter even says, "Oh, if you kill me, everybody will know that you did it for your honor." And I thought there had to be some other ways people might react in that situation. And I wanted to explore what that would be. And, given the very limited options of women in that time and place.
So your title, The Lines Between Us, it sounds fascinating. What does the title refer to?
Okay, so it took me a really long time to decide what I wanted for a title. And it's got a couple of different meanings. One is sort of the lines we put between us, like boundaries, because in the novel, family secrets, they're on many different levels, they're family secrets. Mm-hmm. And those, I think, separate us. So that's one meaning of the lines between us. And the other meaning is the lines, is in the written lines. So the way that we attempt to communicate with one another. And then I hadn't thought of this, but someone said, "Oh, it's like the lines of your ancestry." Mm-hmm. So I'll take that meaning too.
You put a lot of thought into the title.
I did, and it took me a very long time to come to it.
So how difficult was it to write two different timelines?
Well, it wasn't difficult to write them. To figure out how to put them together was a very difficult task. So, writing Anna, the aunt's story, was, of course, it's never easy, but it's straightforward. And then Rachel's story, and then Juliana, the niece's story, which is told through her diaries. And how to fit those in was very challenging. And I was sometimes worried that, you can't stay too long in the diary because then it's too abrupt when you come out to the other character who's reading the diary. So I had to sort of modulate, and someone had suggested, well, also a way to connect them is to always have the person who's reading the diary reflect at least for a sentence, it doesn't have to be more than a sentence or two on what they just read, and that will sort of connect them. So it was kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, really. So it was the organizing probably was the most difficult part.
So basically you really wrote like 3 stories and then had to weave them together.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, which has the virtue of not having to sustain one really long story.
So what are you working on now?
Now I'm working on, I've just started my research. I had originally thought, I thought I want to have my main character be a woman in the same time period. And I love old maps. So I thought cartography, that would be something really interesting. And who knows if there were women cartographers, but there could have been. The story of so many women, as we know, is lost. So, and I thought, and perfect, this will fit in with, in Spain, because of the New World, they must have been big on cartography. But when I started looking into it, actually the center for map making at that time was Amsterdam, because of the Dutch East Indies and the Dutch West Indies companies. And in fact, the largest book published in the 17th century was something called the Atlas Major, which was published in Amsterdam, a book of volumes of maps. And so I decided that my character will of course have to be in Amsterdam. She's somehow going to be involved with the printing of that map. And other than that, I don't have a whole lot of the plot. I'm still, for me, when I'm doing my research, things come up, and that sort of gives me an idea of like, oh, I could have this happen, I could have that happen. I'm not a person who has the whole story in her head ahead of time.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, for joining me today. And if you're interested in reading her book, I'm going to leave a link down in the description. And I look forward to when your next book comes out.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Charity.
You're welcome.